I don't know what I'm doing, so I'll stop doing it. Hi, everybody. I uh, I found out that when I used my hands, the things got crazy or the picture didn't work as well. So I learned to slow down the frame rate on my video, so hopefully everybody can hear me okay. And if not, just do this or my brother David's co-hosting, keeping an eye on things like that. And welcome. I am so glad that I have anybody here, no, everybody here, that you could all join me this evening. And I will do the same. I will start out. I looked for what I wanted to do, and there's a Rumi prayer that I really liked. So I went digging for that, and I found that. And I'll do that, and then we'll do a small meditation, and then I'll go into my speaking or my topic tonight, and then just kind of see what shows up. So the Rumi prayer is, let me take a second and just slow down again. I'm just excited to see everybody, so I get hyper, so I will slow down. The Rumi prayer is, I pray for change, so I change my mind. I pray for guidance and learn to trust myself. I prayed for happiness and realized I am not my ego. I prayed for peace and learned to accept others unconditionally. I prayed for abundance and realized my doubt kept it out. I prayed for a miracle and realized I am the miracle. I prayed for a soulmate and realized I am the one. I prayed for love and realized it's always knocking, but I have not allowed it in. So now that I've slowed down, I'm going to see if we can set an intention just to connect a little bit, slow down, putting my feet on the ground, and do just a little meditation, which for me, first, you can't screw it up. Meditating is just a slowing down of energy and coming home to self. Even when the monkey mind goes off, it comes down. For me, when I start bringing that in, it excuse me, it brings in the group's energy and the connectiveness that we all are. So I'm honored and pleased that you're here with me this evening and joining us on this healing journey that we're on. So wherever you are, if you can put your feet on the ground, you can close your eyes if you want. And energy will shift through breath. So it's a slowing down of breath, just being consciously aware. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Thoughts come, just let them go. Being open to the higher guidance that is sitting here in this group's energy with us right now. And we are all connected now. I can feel this connectiveness coming in. And I invite your guides and angels to join us. and know we are here for each other. I can feel the settling down because I can start tuning into everybody's core star. It's like that light is starting to rise in the settling, in the connectiveness, in the sadness, the pain, the tears, in all the humanness. There's a connectiveness. And then slowing down, it's like I can feel the heartbeats. And if you can feel or not, it's perfect because you are part of that synergy we are all sitting in right now. I could sit in this for so long. It's like there's deep like joy, and then there's sadness and these emotions coming up. It's just being with your core star, with your light, with you is so emotional for me. And the settling down, I love the connectiveness. So thank you. It's why I say in all the emails, just you being here brings energy and healing to all of us. So thank you for holding me, for holding you, so we can hold the group. So I had a topic last Sunday that I knew what I was going to talk about, but to be honest, the bottom line truth was I was just plain exhausted last Sunday. And that's why I canceled it. It was just honoring my boundaries of what I needed. And what I needed was, as much as I love these groups and they feed me on so many levels, what I needed was just not have to do anything, not have to be or not have to deal with anything. But the topic became even more apparent to me this week. And what my guidance or guides said is talk about it's the human condition that if you're human, we all deal with. And it's called suffering. And it's I don't know who, how, the soul, God, whatever you want to create it, goes into. Going in, choosing to incarnate is on some level going into pain, because in pain we learn who we are. Joy is we get to celebrate that. We dance in the light, we're closer to God, and we do that. But suffering is we learn how we're in relationship to people and ourselves. And one of my favorite quotes that Carl Jung said is there's no coming into consciousness without pain. There's no coming into consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, by making the darkness conscious. And it was like I've been hearing that for years, and the more I sit with it, the more it resonates with me. So when I started to, because I did last week, I started to do the work on doing it. You know me, I love the energy and what does suffering, what does it mean? So I mean, I know what it means for me, and each person has an individual way of looking at it, but I wanted to go to look on the dictionary. You know me, between God and Google, you can find anything. So the definition for suffering is the bearing of pain, inconvenience, or loss. Pain endured, stress, loss, injury incurred, suffering or pain by sorrow, by want or wrongdoings, suffering being in pain, grief, or having injury, distress, etc. And then it was like there was list and list and list of all the words that are related to suffering: misfortune, hardship, torture, ordeal, difficulty, discomfort, torment, misery, anguish, adversity, pain, passion, martyrdom, affection. The list was literally, I could have spent almost the whole evening going all those words, speaking all those words that are related to suffering that we've come up with in the human vocabulary of that energy. And I went up to look up the root of suffering. The verb of the suffering is to feel pain or something equally unpleasant. And the root is a Latin word, sufferi, to bear, to undergo, to endure. And one of the quotes, because I just started researching on suffering, because I could talk about my own or each person here enough on what we're dealing with. But one of the quotes, or one of the things that I read that really touched me, because in my practice I do work with people who are getting rid of addiction, and I don't care if it's food or sex or drugs or alcohol or whatever we're addicted to, or pain or something. And it literally stated, trying to avoid pain is the root of all addiction. And when I read that, I was like, wow. Trying to avoid pain. Even the side effects of these addictions seem more tolerable than the things we're avoiding. Yet the more we avoid the monster all around us in our closet, the bigger it becomes. And it's just not to suffer. We numb ourselves with food, TV, books, or, not books. Maybe you can get lost in books. To me, none of them are bad and wrong if they're out of balance. And if it's out of balance, it's not working. My belief is that there's a lesson for the soul to learn. And when we don't learn it, things will get louder. The universe goes psst, psst, psst. And then all of a sudden things start shaking, and your car's breaking, or bills, or things start collapsing, or physical ailments start showing up because we're not listening. And some lessons take a lifetime. And I think some lessons take a few lifetimes, because we come back and repeat them. Because being human, we're so stubborn and stuck in our ways that this is all I know. And even if I'm sitting in a pile of crap, it's safer to do this than to be vulnerable. How much are we really open to learning or hearing or changing? How outside our comfort zone are we willing to go to be open to shift suffering? And it's suffering has been stronger than all other teachings. Actually, let me rephrase this. This is what Charles Dickens said in Great Expectations. Suffering has been stronger than all other teachings and has taught me to understand what your heart used to be. I have been bent and broken, but I hope into a better shape. And then Nicholas Sparks wrote, without suffering, there would be no compassion. So as much as suffering sucks, it's part of the human condition. We learn, we grow. In that, what we try and spend our whole life trying to avoid. And in Buddha's teaching, the truth or suffering is the cause of suffering. Let me see how we put it instead of paraphrase. The truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path leads to the end of suffering. He has the four truths, and one of the truth is, the first truth is suffering, pain, and misery exist in life. Simply put, suffering exists, it has a cause, it has an end, and it has a cause to bring about its end. So he says true suffering is always being, the cure for true suffering is always being happy, and referred to as the eightfold path of the middle, which means that life is not perfect, nor is the world we live in. If we're alive, we experience pain. Everyone has different pain thresholds that we experience it through our lives. Physical pain is the nervous system. Internal pain, your body's reacting. Stimulus create unpleasant sensory experiences as hunger. It's different stomach aches or pounding headaches or arthritis. Pain can take an emotional form that a lot of times over time will lead to depression and heartbreak or sadness. So I sat with it because I deal with pain every day of my life. And I'm not asking for I'm sorry or the victim. Most of my life, from my teenager years on, I've dealt with depression. It's in my lineage. And I started smoking pot all the time because I realized later on that was what I did to handle my suffering, because they didn't have all the great drugs out, I don't know, being facetious, they have out these days that people can numb themselves with. So through the depression, and I would say most of my life, I would say it was horrible, terrible, because you can fight cancer, you can fight this, but literally having depression, I learned all you can do is suffer, sleep, or get stoned or numb. I don't like alcohol. But in the depression, what I look at is the bigger picture is, without what I've gone through, it would not have me who I am today. So suffering is part of our lessons. So suffering is here to teach us, and it's like, I think on some level it could take lifetimes. I deal with headaches every day. Some days are ones or two. Some days, last week I had a migraine where in the middle of a session, I was wondering, should I get a bag to throw up or go to the hospital? But then I sat in it. I realized there was like such a split inside me that I could still literally be so present with this person I was with, still hold space, still get guidance, even though I had this whole conversation, this amazing split. Is like almost, I would have told her, I mean, she's a regular, that like, we need to end this, I'm not doing well. But I kept breathing, and then I started going into witnessing, and I'm going, oh my God, I could actually sit here and still be present, still hold space, still laugh with her, and still have that. So my pain that I deal with on a regular basis, I believe, my soul knows on a bigger level that it's still teaching me some lessons. And I'm explaining this not as a victim or a martyr or complaining, more of just witnessing what is so with me in my life, because to be human is to suffer. And so there is pain from which there's no escaping. And there's suffering we can do something about on some level. It's kind of like a chain reaction. Sometimes you start suffering, it's easy to go back into the rabbit hole, into the I'm not, into the pain, into the lost, into the wounded child, and no one cares. I don't know, whatever your wounds are, it's so easy to cause it in there. It's like habitual, done. So what I've been working with is, when that shows up with me and or my clients who I'm working with, how can we shift? Because my belief is, and I say this all the time, everything's energy. Everything's energy, it's moving or not. And witness with compassion. And compassion is not the shoulda, woulda, coulda, and I'm not. And it's easy when you're suffering to end in the rabbit hole. I've spent years in my rabbit hole. I put a Barco lounger, I put a refrigerator, a TV, and even a skylight because I know my rabbit hole so well. And the worst part of it, it separates you from the other. When our deepest longing is for connection, suffering is hard to let somebody in to be with when you're doing that. So as much as we don't have control over that, I think we can start shifting in time our relationship to the thoughts and emotional reactions to pain instead of intensifying our suffering. So when I have somebody who calls me, or because I have my clients know they can text me anytime they're suffering, it's literally, or they're in pain, what can you do to shift it? Take a shower, go outside, eat something. If sitting in it, in the what I call the rabbit hole, keeps it stuck. It keeps us all stuck. And it's so habitual that there isn't. It's hard to explain, but there's a negative pleasure in the pain. At least we get to be the victim. I can't do this, or I can't do that, or all the reasons, or the martyr. I've got the pain and do that. But it's coming to peace with, right now I'm in pain, and what do I need? A lot of times if it's a headache or pain, you need to be fed. In my training at the Barbara Brennan School, I remember reading her books, and Barbara's first thing that she wrote about is pain is your first sign of guidance. Mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, doesn't even matter. Pain is your guidance that we habitually poo-poo. It's like dating somebody and ignoring all the red flags. And down the road, well, I knew that this person had alcohol or drug problems and they did that, and all the things we ignore, when the truth was, if we spoke our truth and were with it, if it's our first sign of guidance, are you willing to slow down and see what the guidance and or the lesson is? I think I read that probably like 25 years ago. Pain is your first sign of guidance. And I go, oh my God, I've been numbing, not listening. I don't want to hear. But in doing the work that I've done on myself for all these years, it's hard to ignore my guidance anymore. It's hard when that voice says, yada, yada, yada. It's like literally next week at work, all of a sudden my schedule was so packed that people who couldn't come in for 2 weeks, all these people canceled out and dropped out. And my guidance says, you needed a break. So I'm like, okay. I'm not going to go be working like all the time. And that's fine because I'm slowing down to listen to my guidance of I'm going to be okay. And truly, when we sit with it, each one of you has survived your worst day, your worst nightmare, your biggest heartbreak, whatever you've gone through, you are still here. And what we have gone through as human beings sometimes is unbelievably painful and suffering. When we get caught up in the anxiety and worry about what might happen in the future, we start creating pain in the moment. I've got a test next week, or da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like we start suffering in what's not even happened or here. And I love the human condition, the human mind, and the matrix we live in, and this energy and stuff. But when I look at, wow, it's like next week I got to do X, or tomorrow, or this or that, to go into suffering over what hasn't even occurred. Sorry, it blows me away what we do to ourselves. Because I was going to say I shouldn't laugh. No, I laugh. It's just painful. I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'm slowing down. And I've realized that in attempting to push away our pain, whether it's physically or emotionally, we always actually add more suffering. in not speaking our truth, because I find that's probably the number one thing on a deeper level is speaking our truth. And I know I've said we're very honest, but speaking your truth on a level of shaking, we suffer and we create these, I call them little turds between us. So the willingness to be with our suffering gives rise to internal resourcefulness that we can carry forward in our lives. We can learn that whatever we give space to can move. But it's like when I work with somebody, if they've got a headache, I always find the first thing we do is we lock down our headache. We hold on to it. And usually when I work with somebody, I go, I am with you. Just open up. Let it go. And they go, what? I says, you're holding it, you're freezing it. And by holding it and freezing it, it keeps it stuck. So what's available to move that is the willingness to open up, to trust on a bigger level. If I go into it fully, then it's not stuck and it can move because it is just energy. And it's allowing our pain to arise. We discover a point of stillness and sometimes peacefulness. In the middle of our suffering, it was like literally like when I had that last week, it was luckily my last client, she was a regular, it was like an axe was in my head. And I'm like, but in the stillness and the slowing down, it was like I could witness that. And I'm not negating it, but I was still able to be fully present with this person that I can guarantee if I asked them, they never knew that was going on. And that's what I said, in the middle of my headaches or your pain, heartbreak, or whatever going on, there is gifts. And I almost, my guides are literally reminding we heal in connection because we can't see them on ourselves, on our own. We heal in connection where somebody can witness back a bigger truth than ours because ours is shrunk. I'm in pain. I remember one of Bob Marley's sayings is the truth is everybody's going to hurt you. You just have to find the ones we're suffering for. Because we create expectations, and expectations, they're suffering. That's why I said I could have gone over the list of all the different things we do as the human condition is suffering. Find the ones we're suffering for. And there's something I wrote a while ago. I had to look it up. That John Green, I'm not even sure he was, but I try and acknowledge each person who said it. It says, the only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Because suffering could be anger that we hold towards another, from our past, from an abuser, from family members, from bosses, from so many different things. It creates more suffering in the psyche, in the energy field. And it's, like I said, joy is the most powerful energy, but bringing joy and love, I really, truly believe, helps move that energy. And there's another guy, I found a million quotes last week in looking this up, and I can't even pronounce his last name, but Haruki, whatever. No matter how much suffering you went through, you never want to let go of those memories. It's like we literally hold on to those. I find a lot of times when people come in talking, they talk about what they're suffering, what they're dealing with, their pain and this stuff, and occasionally I'll slow them down and ask them to talk about their joy. I don't know if we hold on to the joy, or maybe joy's in the moment, but it seems like the suffering and the pain is part of our stories. It's part of, I don't know if it's the glue that keeps us together, or it's part of it, but there's so much more to us than that. And Leo Troitsky, whatever, I'm terrible at reading stuff. Only people who are capable of loving strongly can also suffer great sorrow. But this is the same necessity of loving to counteract the grief, and that heals them. There is tons and tons of book on pain and suffering and quotes. But I truly believe suffering is the human condition. And for each of us, because I have list of people who want to work with or deal or move stuff or come to see me, it's an energy field. It's part of the human condition. I truly believe if I didn't suffer, I couldn't have the joy that I have. It I don't know, balances it, but it made me work harder towards joy. Excuse me, with the depression, it's not wanting to be depressed, looking at all those things, that depression of close the energy field. And I used to say for all the time, it's like, well, you got cancer, well, you can heal that, and not that cold, but you can deal with it, or if you're hungry. But when you're having depression, you're suffering. And I've learned to move the energy fields, to listen when it comes on, to see what goes on, to bring it into a different realm of being with yourself. So I almost want to say in conclusion, but I don't even know what the conclusion is. Other than I truly know in the slowing down, in your breath, in your being present with yourself, you can start shift the suffering. And your journey between you and God, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Mother Earth, the tree, Hashem, whatever it is, connect and allow and know there's a greater energy. And ask for support, because we don't heal in isolation. We heal in connection. I just feel like crying. I guess emotional about the suffering in the world. It's overwhelming sometimes, and the pain that humans inflict on other people. And even worse, I guess, is the pain we inflict on ourselves from our beliefs, our images, and our woundings. But the bigger picture I look at is this is what your soul chose this lifetime to work, to shift, to change. So I believe in miracles. I think I could go on and on, but I'm just looked at the clock and I want to be trying to keep it close to around 8 o'clock. So I'm going to close this and move this, and I'm going to bring in Kenny, my cohort, in this. And some of you know Kenny, some of you don't, which is fine. What I do is, let me see if I can turn this light on. Seems like lights like to go off on me all the time. There we go. What I do is I bring in your energy field into Kenny. and I'm going to do the healing work with him. Instead of working on you each individually, this is what I do with the group, because I can feel this energy, and it's in Kenny, and he's a heart-centered human. So may I be the highest guidance on your healing journey. I'm going to call in the directions and put on some music. I guess I need to find my mouse. Okay, there it is. So I can put on some music. And my suggestion is, if you're alone, if you want, speak out loud, say it, put your intention for the healing. What do you want to receive? And, which is just important, what are you willing to let go of? So you can find a place, make yourself comfortable. There's nothing to watch. I'll be putting my hands on. I'm going to put on music in a minute. And when I'm done working on him, I'll turn down the music and bring you back. And when I'm done, you're welcome just to turn off the Zoom and just allow yourself to receive. So my intention is for less suffering with me, with you. I welcome in the north and the south, the east and the west, Mother Earth and Father Sky, to hold us on this healing journey. I welcome and honor your guides and angels, and my guides and angels to guide us. And I ask God to shine her light on us on the highest good. And thank you for the gifts we shall receive. And sending love to all of you, my brothers and sisters, and to the world. We could always use a little more than that. Let me see if I can get my music going. There was a lot of energy moved in that healing for all of us. So if you want to roll over and go to sleep, that's fine. Be extremely gentle with yourself, because that was a lot of heart work and a lot of moving stuff out of there, and a lot of sadness and grief and pain, and there's a lot of energy. So be gentle with yourself, please. Reach out tonight or tomorrow if you need someone to talk to if stuff comes up, because stuff's going to come up. Thank you for being with me. I love you. I'll be here next Sunday. Invite anybody. And be gentle with yourself. You are a child of God. Namaste.
Thank you.